Hey guys, here's Heiko again.
Yeah.
Today we're going to replace the two original ignition coils that I still run in here in a 1974 R90/6 for a two tower or two post single ignition coil. So for that I already removed the seat. Now we're just going to take the fuel lines off if I can on both sides. Make sure you have the petcocks closed or it's going to turn into a huge mess. These are Harbor Freight pliers. They are specifically made for that kind of stuff. So you can reach around the fuel line and then just wiggle it. Shouldn't be any fuel in it. I haven't run my bike in a little while. It was so hot here in this area that, being in full gear is just no fun. All right, and there we go. Oh, I might have to replace a piece of my fuel line as well. All right, and then we need to take the two little knurled nuts off here. Maybe take my toolbox out of the way as well. Like that. All right, take those loose. All right. And then we really need to get the front of the tank off its little perch, of its little support. So want to make sure your handlebars are straight. Then you gotta push it back and up, and then I usually reach in there with one finger, kind of support it. And then I wish I would have had the washers out of the way, but they don't want to come off. And then, yeah, now I just dropped all of it. 3 of the 4 I have in my hand, and then we can lift it off the bolts in the back, and then I have the tank off the motorcycle. And then I usually just find myself a little shop stools that roll around and just put the tank right on top of that. So it's out of the way, it's sitting on something soft. I dropped one of the washers, but we're gonna find a new one. All right, so here are the two coils, one on each side. These are 6-volt coils. They are wired in series, and that makes it, in principle, it makes it a unit, and the unit is a 12-volt coil with 2 posts. That's pretty much what this is. One 6-volt and one 6-volt. And then you just have to take your little terminals off of here. This is switched positive, switched 12-volt. And then on the other side, so the switched 12-volt goes, of course, onto the positive post on this coil, which is marked 15. That's kind of a German standard nomenclature for those ports. This is 15. And then we have the number 1 post over here that just bridges over to the next coil, to the other coil's terminal number 15. And then the second wire over here that either goes to your points. In my case, it goes to my electronic ignition, which I have installed here. So we took this off. This here is just a grounding point. We're going to take this all off. We're going to take both coils off, really. So take that off. I'm not going to throw those away. They're not going to be my backup. I just bought a Enduralast from EME BMW in Colorado. So those coils are going to go. Oh yeah, see, now there is this little bridge wire that bridges from one to the other coil. Just take that off, and then hopefully you can get your ignition lead out of there. I usually put a little bit of dielectric grease on there so they don't corrode in there. So this is one. The bolts we might need. And then I'm going to take the second one off over here real quick. And then then we're going to figure out which side I would like to put the new one on, which is totally up to us to find out. Whatever side seems more user-friendly. So let's put that out of the way. Let me run upstairs and get the new coil real quick. So now we have to see if all my wires here, so this is the 2-post coil made by Enduralast. Euromotor Electrics in Colorado sold me those. I think the coil was $69. So now, since I really only have one wire, oh here look, we actually, I think we're gonna put it here on this side because we still have this ground. I wire wheeled off some of the paint here of the frames so that this area has a very good ground contact. Then this is the ground wire for the entire wiring harness. And then my positive and my negative are both here on this side coming from my electronic ignition. And one was longer going over to the other side. We're just gonna keep it both here on this side. So this is how it's gonna be mounted. Now we just need to find out if my high voltage, my ignition leads are actually long enough to reach over here. That's the problem. So I might actually have to make a new one for the right side to bring it over here. I figured I'd show you what I'm doing with this ignition spark plug cable. My goodness, spark plug cable is the word. Since I don't have exactly the same one lying around, which I bought at my local power sports motorcycle store, I'm just going to use a piece of copper core high tension lead from a Ford truck, brand new, lying around. I don't have the truck anymore. The cap that goes into the coil is just soldered on, so I just unsoldered it from this end here. Then you take some insulation off, stick the core through this thing here, through this little cap, and then you spread out the strands in here, and then just cut off the excess. Don't want to have it stick out, because after the soldering it's supposed to be like a smooth little round little cap. Okay, so the spreading out is just so that the strands kind of hold it in place. So like that, stick that on there, spread this all out. Okay, and then we're gonna put some flux on there, and my original Radio Shack rosin core solder, just a little bit of some flux so that it flows. Rosin core. That's pretty much what it's supposed to look like. Little rounded tip there. Clean the leftover flux off. Make sure you don't have any sharp, there's a little bit of some pointy tip sticking out. But what you also can do, if you don't like how it turned out, you just take it to your belt sander or your bench grinder and just round it off a little bit, so you don't want to have those pointy ends sticking out and then getting stuck inside your ignition coil. But yeah, this is pretty much it. You can reuse those all the time. Some BMW parts places, they sell those ends, or you can of course always order cables. so you don't have to do it yourself. The NGK spark plug caps that I have on here, they are 5 kilo ohm. They're screw on. They're of course not the original, you know, not the OEM BMW or anything, but they do the job. And NGK is pretty famous for quality of their parts. Oops. So now you just want to make sure that your copper core there in the middle goes right on top of that self-tapping type screw. I usually, yeah, so that looks good. And then you just screw it in. This is silicone insulated cable here, which is pretty flexible. You don't need any tools for that, it's just all done by hand. And then after that, you put this little rubber cap back on there, and that's it. And now we have a longer high tension lead premium 7mm premium silicone copper core cable. This is what it is. You always want to use copper core. So now we have enough length here, so this side no problem. This side is now long enough. I can always shorten it. I can always go to the ignition, the spark plug cap, and just snip off a piece and then screw it back in, no problem. So now we got to figure out what we're going to do with those, with the bracket here. They sell that individually, so you can buy the coil and then you can buy the bracket. This is specifically made here for this type model of motorcycle. And then when you order the bracket, they also give you the hardware. Looks like it's stainless steel even. Let's see. And then there are even nylock nuts that come with this. All right, let me get a 10mm wrench real quick. And another smaller Allen key. And just tighten that up real quick. And this doesn't need to be tightened down like a 190-pound gorilla, just tight, you know, so it doesn't fall off. The nylock nuts will hold onto things and make sure it doesn't come loose. That's good enough for me. So and then I read in the instructions that out of the box, this ignition coil is not polarized. What that means is that it doesn't matter if you put the positive here or if you put the positive there. The coil is going to figure out its polarity once you start running your bike. I only have one terminal each side, so they give you a couple different options here. Here's a 3-point terminal, here's a single point terminal. We're going to use only the single point terminals. Also comes with hardware and a lock washer each, and again needs a Allen key. No, Phillips head. Let's get a Phillips head. I might have worked a little too fast here with putting the bracket on. I probably want to find out in which direction I want to orient this. So if this goes on here, they say that slight modifications might be required, so you can probably bend this bracket a little differently. I might have to do this. I might have to bend this out a little more. It's a waste spark system, so both cylinders always spark at the same time. That's why they are hooked up to the same ignition coil. Yeah, just long enough. Or else we would have had to splice something on or solder something on. And I still kind of want to find out in which direction I have those terminals point, so they are not causing any rubbing problems. I don't think that a new coil will affect the ignition timing. Maybe it will affect the the ignition intensity or the ignition spark plug voltage. But what I will do for sure is I will check the timing afterwards, just to make sure. Well, okay. So the brown wires here are all ground leads, so they, you know, if they rub through, it's not the end of the world. But in principle, I don't like any wire cable, anything getting any kind of rub marks. So now we're doing some weight reduction too, I bet, because this modern 2-tower ignition coil probably weighs a little less than the other two. I might shorten this so that it's going more straight, but for a test run, this one here, yeah, not super happy with this turn, but I think I'm fine with that. And then all the other stuff is nothing a zip tie can't fix. Long skinny zip tie. I just want to keep it out of the way of any sharp edges. Nipex. There you go. And now we can slap the tank back on. Good. Good and tight. Good and tight. All out of the way. No. Oh, my choke cable is now pinched. I mean, I guess it's a sheet metal. Yeah, this is better. So I just grabbed it and bent it a little bit. No big deal. You can do that too. You can do to your bike whatever you like. All right. And then every time I take the tank off, I also check if there's anything leaking here around my brake fluid. It's still full. All right, now the tank. So this little rubber piece here that goes on the perch that holds the tank up in the front. And if that's missing, then everything is just rubbing on each other. So once again, when I do this, I try to put the rear end of the tank onto those posts. They are rubber mounted. Now, since we're at it, I'm also going to look at the location of my new coil in relationship to the tank and make sure that nothing is rubbing there either. Then we can push that back, lower it down onto that rubber buffer, and then we're pretty much in place. And then, oops, sorry. Let's see the coil. You can look in from here and kind of see what's going on. I don't want anything to be rubbing on the tank, and I also shouldn't have put this under the throttle cable but over it, so like that. This is a little on the long side for sure. A little on the long side. And where's my flashlight? Yeah, I bent it up for the choke cable, but now it is a little high and it's touching the tank. So, not good. I think we're good. So now we're just going to put the fuel lines back on. Both sides. And then my permanent tension clamp. They are not OEM BMW either. Neither is the fuel line. But I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure that nothing comes apart while I'm riding. These are usually used on dirt bikes. Yep. All right. Let's open the fuel on both sides. See if we have battery juice. Yep. Choke or enrichment. We're in neutral. Let's see if it starts. Oh. I would say it's starting and it's running and it seems to be firing on both cylinders. Like I said, I will check the timing. I will check timing just to make sure. It also needs a car balancing, so, but I think the conversion was successful. Now we have 2 extra coils that we can store somewhere if we ever want to put it back to original. And that's it. Alright, if you guys like those videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, okay? Thank you.